How's it going, folks? Nick here with yet a Permaculture vlog. You saw Otto on his way out. He just kind of is now down and doing his hunting already. And yeah, welcome to another week of the vlog. This week it's just gonna be a little bit of a check-in. I started up work again online, so I haven't had as much time to spend back here as I usually would, or I have had the past few weeks. So haven't done too much, just a couple little check-ins and cleaning and all that kind of stuff. So nothing too much, but I do have some big news, some exciting news, some news I think that might shock some of you if you've actually been watching this for a while. So let's go ahead and get started and we'll get to all that. Here's Otto, very playful this morning, as you can see. He's loving the dewy grass. This cat just loves to explore all through the gardens, especially in the morning after a little bit of rain. I'm not sure why, but he just really loves the wet grass and wet everything. And yeah, he's a funny cat. Look at him starting to have that little water from the dewy things. I've had quite a bit of rain the past few days. Just yesterday, looks like about 0.4, just over 10 mil. And that was just yesterday. The day before that, I think we had like about 0.6. So we've had over an inch the past like 2 days. So not extremely surprising here in the tropics and here in the rainforest, but it is quite a bit of rain the past 2 days. All right, so if you guys have been following us for a while, we've been having a little bit of an issue getting one of our chickens that was gifted to us by a friend to really integrate into the flock. It's taken a long time. At this point, we're finally at the point where we're more or less integrated. Still not quite completely welcome into the flock, but not unwelcome, right? Kind of that like, you're all right. Well, I guess we'll let you hang out with us. It's that kind of feeling right now. But for a long time, we couldn't figure out why they wouldn't let her in. And so we weren't really sure exactly why. And then one day I was back here and I was just kind of watching and seeing what's going on. I let all the chickens out except for Henry, who was in a little side coop there. And Henry, I noticed, started to make this call. And the call was a rooster call. So I was like, oh, of course, that's why he's not integrating into the flock, because the other rooster doesn't really want another rooster come around. Plus, he's more the tropical breed versus more like the homestead breed, the kind of burlier kind. There are two types of like major chicken types. One kind of came from China, is a little bit more bulky, the kind you usually see on homesteads. And then one kind of came from the Indochina area. And that is a much smaller bird, much more flighty, usually found in the tropical areas. So this is one of those local birds, the tropical birds. And we were just like, okay, different kind of breed type, so maybe that's the issue. Well, what ended up happening is we eventually got Henry integrated and seemed to be doing just fine with the flock and everything. And once that happened, kind of calmed down a little bit, wasn't as crazy and kind of flighty, so that was cool. Like, great, integrating, we're going to be fine. We'll be able to keep him without any sort of issue, without having to call him, because we don't need two roosters in a tiny six bird flock in our backyard, right? So I was thinking, okay, well, if it's a rooster, then we're probably going to cull him once he gets to the age to be culled, or once he gets big enough to have enough meat or something on there, or if we need a meal or something like that, right? Well, just the other day, I went to open the egg box and I had emptied everything the day before, and earlier that day I looked in and saw 4 eggs. That's exactly what I expect, 4 eggs. We have 4 hens and 2 roosters. Well, a little bit later that day, we got another egg. So I'm thinking, is Henry a hen, actually? So this is the color of the eggs that we tend to get with all of our birds. They're kind of these kind of dark brownish eggs. Compare that to this other egg. You can also tell this is from one of the new chickens. It's a small egg. It's not like huge yet. They're just starting to lay as of a couple weeks ago. So it's a small egg. You would expect that. This one, even smaller. Not by much, but it's a little bit smaller, and it's a lighter color, and it appeared after all the other chickens had already laid all their eggs. So we figured out is that Henry is, in fact, a hen. Henry the hen. With these are the twins, as we call them. They're basically the two babies that hatched out of the eggs that our mama sat on. So these 2 came from our flock, and this is the one that came from the local birds. This is Henry. And Henry's now incorporated in. Look at that. Henry is a hen. So there's no reason at this point to call her, other than the fact that she likes to get out all the time, and I have to consistently be looking and making sure that she's not eating the garden. So that's something, but that's kind of on me. It's to make sure that the fencing is more appropriate and that she can't get out, and I just have to clip her wings a lot extra than I would other ones because she's a naturally flighty bird. So yeah, it's exciting. We don't have to call Henry because it's an extra rooster. We don't need 2 roosters in a six chicken flock, like I said earlier. But another hen producing another egg. If you're producing for me, I'll keep you happy and I'll keep you fed. So we keep getting those egg production. So we went from 2 eggs a day, approximately about 2 or 3 weeks ago, to now 5 eggs a day. And man, is that a difference. It's just been night and day. We've had so many eggs at this point. Now I'm like, okay, I got to eat all these eggs. I'm actually trying really hard to eat eggs. Instead of before, I was like, oh, I'll save them, make sure Katie has some, etc. So really exciting for us. It's a good day. Henry is indeed a hen. That, of course, doesn't stop my other hens from wanting attention and wanting to know what's going on. Huh? What's going on? How you doing? And the rooster doing his thing. Also in this, in our chicken pen here, the compost pile. If you didn't see me, I have a couple of videos on this compost pile. This one wouldn't heat up for a while. I'll leave that not heat up one video up for you guys, so you can take a look at that if you'd like. And but we did actually get to heat up after my last turn, and I will leave the most recent video talking about this because I talked a lot about my plans and how I'm fixing it, etc. But I'll leave that video linked above right here. But after turning it the last time, when I did not have enough temperature, it was actually below 120, and I was telling you guys, I just really hope that this thing gets to at least 120 degrees. Well, it took 2 or 3 days, but it did actually get back up to 120 degrees. So I'm very happy to say that. So it wouldn't be considered a hot compost, but it is at least an active compost. And the whole process is going quite well. So I just turned this one again 2 days ago. So it's just kind of starting to be spread out. You can see it was much kind of more bulky and taller. And at this point, they're starting to spread out. All this is just kind of like mounds of stuff that they're spreading out there. And it did rain, and it's right on the edge of this tarp covering I have. So right at the edge here, it's probably getting a little bit too wet. So I should have done that a little bit further down when I repiled this, just to give it a little bit more protection. But it should be just fine. The main part of the pile is underneath that tarp, so it's not going to get crazy wet. And yeah, so chickens are happy. As you can see, they're really paying attention to this compost more than anything else. I had this feed tray filled, and it was still up to here as of this morning, and then I just came and shook this and it kind of sunk down a little bit. So they're mainly focusing their food on the compost more so than their actual feed, which is a really good sign and something that I would expect them to be doing because they tend to like finding live things and high protein worms and bugs and everything from that pile, more so than this kind of not so great feed. If you're just pelleted feed, just stuff put together. I mean, it's kind of like candy and everything to them. It's going to be lots of nutrient packed into one little thing that they can just eat. It's kind of like almost like cereal, I guess, for them, where it's like, okay, cereal's fine, but just cereal is not a balanced meal, right? So they really enjoy having the extra option of kind of the buffet feast down at the compost pile. They do have to do a little bit of work to serve themselves and find that food, but once they find it, they get to chow it down and they're really happy. So really cool to see that kind of happening, and compost pile is doing well, and we have 5 hens somehow. It happened. Henry's a hen. Look at this pensive kitty, just pondering the meaning of life this morning on the homestead. Otto, hi, good boy. You good boy. What you doing? Yeah, good boy. Everyone loves to see you every morning, every time I'm out here. They like you more than they like me. You know that? You know that? And that's true of pretty much anyone, I think. I wouldn't take that personally if you guys like Otto more than me, because Otto's Otto, and I'm just the guy that talks in this camera for you for a while. And my talking probably gets old, but it probably never gets old to see the cat. You know what I mean? Really quick, brief check-in with the various gardens. The ones up here, I just harvested from here and here from all these greens. These guys have been really pumping recently. I've been able to harvest Really more than once a week, but I tend to focus my harvest on once a week, and when I do that, I get a huge bowl of salad greens that tends to last us 3 or 4 days worth for Katie and I. So just being able to do that from our backyard, from a few little bit of garden beds, that's really, really inspiring to me. I'm just really excited, and I get really giddy when I get to come and harvest, and then instead of having to go buy greens, which are really hard to source here in Puerto Rico, really fresh greens, having that provided right in my backyard, really cool, and it just kind of inspires me to keep going and keep finding more ways to grow food. So if there's anything you can do, obtain a yield. That's one of the permaculture principles. Obtain a yield, and when we start to obtain that yield, especially those salad greens, it makes my day. Very happy about it. Otherwise, up here you can see the eggplant I planted. It's not extremely happy. I think all this excess rain that we've been getting has not really worked well with it, but the basil is loving it. This one got eaten a little bit, but it's still kind of coming back, and the tiny little one that I put here died. That's okay, no big deal. There are a couple of little dill plants starting to pop up in here, but other than that, those gardens up there are not really doing too much. The radishes and some of the carrots are doing well in this bed here. I have not seen too much of the amaranth that I seed a whole bunch of. There is some in here. I'm gonna have to reseed that, and that's kind of on my to-do list whenever I see a nice little a week or two of rain coming. Of late, it's been like we've had a lot of rain the past 2 days, and it said that we were gonna have a lot of rain, but we've had way more rain than it had forecast. So I didn't want to go through it this week, just because I didn't think there was enough rain coming to really think about. Because when I seed, I don't like to have to water for like a week, because it's too much. You want to make sure everything's moist. I don't want to be out here watering every single day, so I try to wait until I know there's going to be 3 to 5 days of rain coming, and that's when I like to seed, so it's nice and moist the whole time, so the seed has that chance to germinate. That's always my goal. So I guess you call me a lazy gardener, but just working with the patterns of the rain there. Speaking of Henry got into this bed and started scratching everything around. That's why I see all these nice fresh bamboo. These are banana leaves, not bamboo leaves. Found these nice fresh I said it again. These nice fresh banana leaves. Put these down just to help protect the soil a little bit, because Henry did get in and kind of destroy everything around there. And actually, once I redid that, see this mint down here, it really started to take off and kind of reboom once I covered all this up again. So maybe Henry disturbing it ended up actually encouraged them to grow a little bit more and produce some more leafy greens. So thank you, Henry, I suppose, but don't do it again. And also this is a green chili. I think it's like a bird's eye chili that I did a really hard prune on, because it was just really overgrown and everything, and just kind of getting to the point. But you'll see now there's flowers all over it. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a bunch over here too. Kind of hard to see from the bottom, but there's a whole bunch on here. Fresh new flowers, and hopefully new chilies coming soon. Really cool to see. And this is true of harvesting too, but when you do that hard prune, it's really going to encourage the plant to want to start producing again. Oh no, I'm starting to die back. I'm losing leaves and everything. I got to produce seed, so it starts to flower. Or in the case of greens, you cut off the green. Oh, I need more leaf space to produce more sugars through photosynthesis, so it wants to grow more leaves and really prompts it to grow more. So these down here, these Asian greens, they kind of market it as kind of like a kale variety of an Asian green. These guys have been going crazy. I harvested them, I think a week or two ago, and they just put out these huge, beautiful leaves again. And I just harvested this again 2 or 3 days ago, and I probably took maybe 10 or 12 leaves from these 4 or 5 plants down here. So really cool, and at this point I already see there's nice. Look at all this nice fresh new growth right down here. 1, 2, I think I see 3 or 4 new leaves coming out. And then these guys, this will probably double in size by the time I actually harvest it. Really cool little plant. I really enjoy this plant. As for the rest of the bed, we got some tomatoes back here. That thing's just really starting to take off without any help from me. There's one down here too, in between these sweet potatoes. There's also one down here. And I'm just kind of letting them work their way through. I just basically clear any leaves that are starting to crowd them out. So they can kind of come up and through here. So maybe I'll take this one off, maybe take this one off here, just so it's basically working with the sweet potato. The sweet potato leaves kind of getting big and bushier are forcing this thing to want to go further up to find the light. So I don't mind having a little bit of excess kind of ground cover here. It's going to push this to want to grow more and more up. And it's the same with that one there. I wouldn't be surprised if I see that one really take off in a few days, just because it's going to want to get above this layer of ground cover with all this sweet potato here. The sweet potato too has also just been really taking off recently in this bed. Really excited to see that. Look at this hen. Through the gate to eat. I think that's the arrowroot or the canna lily. They love those leaves, and it's just a weed growing there. So thank you, Mama, for taking care of that for me so I don't have to pull it or cut it back. Really appreciate that. This bed here is the most recent one I planted. It's doing really, really well. All the Asian green that I planted started to come up, so it's really cool to see that. The basil too is doing really well. This is like an inner plant of these Asian greens in here. This whole thing is just kind of like a 50-day Asian green on this side. All the smaller Asian greens you see in here, these are 25 days, so I'll harvest those. By the time the basil starts to get big and bushy, these things will be coming out. So that's kind of stacking in time. Thinking about time, these guys are going to be ready before the basil is at its kind of peak. So I'll be able to take these out, and then the basil will take up all that extra room by the time I harvest it. And then these two little tomatoes here, these guys are really happy back here. I do have two sticks here to use as stakes, so I can actually kind of clamp them onto there or clip them onto there to keep them upright if I need to, if they start kind of falling this way on me, which I kind of expect them to do at some point. But so far so good. These guys are just growing, and this is like a platillo variety, and it's kind of like the flatter kind of tomato. And this one that is actually from a local seed company, so I expect it to do quite well here because it's already adapted. I don't have to think about, oh, I'm getting seed from up north, and we'll see. Hopefully it likes the climate here. This one's actually made and bred for here. So I'm starting to poke through right here, and I got my plantain bed down here. This is my most recent bed that I added. I'll leave the link above when I built this bed so you can check it out. But you can see lots of grain in that bed, protected by the chicken wire. Keep the chickens out for me. All this green in the front you see here, this is all that same Asian green that I had an inner plant just above in between the basil. That's all this green right here. And these guys are a 25-day, and they're probably just about ready to harvest. I can probably pretty much start picking them whenever I want. If I let them go a little bit bigger, I'll probably get a little bit more. I can just take the whole plant, or I can just start taking leaves off these guys and add them into the salad. So probably next week when I do my harvest, I'm going to start pulling from here too. Pretty exciting. And other than that, check out this. This is the chayote I've been growing. It's starting to climb right on up, and it's actually all the way up to right there. That's the top of the chayote. So this guy's doing really well, really starting to take off, enjoying this little area. What I'm hoping is down here, one of these lower leaves starts to branch off, and it'll start taking over this trellis, and also then I can guide it over to this trellis too. So it basically takes over this entire space here. That's the goal long term. Really excited to see how that goes, if that actually happens as planned. And the winged bean, you can see here, they're starting to spin their tendrils around. You can see this one's actually started to go onto this little new plantain coming off here. You can see it's wrapped around. So I need to come over here and wrap that around the actual post that I want to go up instead. But you know, either way, these guys are growing. They haven't stopped growing. So really excited to see that. I'm just really excited to get these guys going because it's called winged bean. It's a perennial bean here in the tropics, and pretty much all parts of the plant are edible. So I'm really excited to kind of see that in action, see that the whole process of that growth. That's the nice thing. I like to see not just the harvest, but the whole growth process. It's really fun to see and learn from that because that's kind of, you just learn more and more about the plants you're growing, and it just gets more and more exciting every day. Back over to this bed with the sweet potatoes. I didn't mention this earlier, but this guy right here, this is some sort of taro or cocoa yam or something like that. I always forget, and I'm really bad at remembering this, so one of you guys might be able to help me. A, is this an edible kind? I believe it is, but someone here in Puerto Rico might know a little bit better than me. It does have this little bit of a red dot right in the center, and I think what that means is it's the red variety of this specific type of root crop. So this plant right here produces a root crop, and that's what you eat, is actually the root down there that you'll end up eating. It's a big kind of crunchy, or not crunchy, a big kind of tuber, and they cut it up and use that as the main food source for this, a big starch. But I always forget, I believe this is malanga because it creates this M right here. It doesn't go all the way down to the bottom here. If it went all the way down, I believe they would be calling it jautia. So malanga starts with an M, so it's like an M shape, and jautia comes all the way down, makes more of a Y, and that's why they call it Joutia. I could have that reversed, so it might be that this is Joutia and the other one's Malanga, but I'm pretty sure I'm right here. This is Malanga because it makes the kind of that M at the top there. The Y would be more pronounced otherwise. So this just started growing in here, and I just let it grow because I thought it was the edible kind. Honestly, I still do not know for sure, but I'm just letting it go because it's not really bothering anything. And if it is the edible kind, this is something I want to be growing here anyway. So it's kind of fun to just see what's here, because all these backyards and everything in the past here in Puerto Rico, they've all been used to grow food. So there's always going to be like a seed bank and some sort of past genetic material back here that will end up helping these kind of things to start growing, just from seed or from a little piece that's still left over or anything like that. So I always like to leave anything like that just in case it is productive. And if it ends up not being productive, I can just cut it back later or pull it out later. You know, it's a little bit better to take my chances of there might be some sort of edible end to this fruit, instead of just saying that, you know, I'll just pull it. Who cares? I like to experiment a little bit there. For all of you who are wondering about the papayas, this is looking more and more like a female flower to me. See how big that's getting? It's coming right out from the stem here. It's not tiny and spindly like the male flowers are. So this is looking more and more like a female flower to me, versus the male flowers. This is what the male flowers look like right there. So they're kind of more spindly. They have this little they'll come out from the actual stem quite a bit and branch off, and more flowers will be added from there. And these guys don't have to be, this is really close. These guys can be like this long and come way out here and be all over branched out here with the flowers. So that's the male right there. The male flowers, a whole bunch of them, smaller, and they're kind of out from the stem. They're not right up against the stem, right? And then we're going to head over right to here. Here's this one. This, I believe, is the female flower, really close to the stem, right up against it, and much bigger, much more plump than the males. So I'm really hoping that right there is a female, because that means we have another female tree back here. And otherwise we have a whole bunch of males. So, you know, males are fine and all, they provide the high shade, but they don't provide the fruit, right? And you only need about one male for 7 or 8 female plants. So you don't really need to have crazy amounts of males all over the place like I do. And the reason I do is I just grow these from seed. The seed, I don't think I planted any of these papayas, maybe 1 or 2, where I was like, ooh, I want a papaya here. But the rest of them, they just came from seed. Seed got mixed into the compost or just got thrown in here, and they just started growing. They tend to grow better from seed, I've learned here in the tropics. You can transplant them, but papayas in general, they like to grow from seed much more so. Oh, check this out. Might have another female on the other side of this bed up here. These ones are looking very similar to the female flowers on the other one that we saw coming up. So we will see. We might have 2 females right here, and that's exactly what I would be looking for. Fingers crossed, you know. You never really know until it actually happens, and we're just gonna wait and we'll wait and see what happens. If we start getting the fruit, we got a female. All right, folks, I think that's it for me today. Just a little bit of a check-in and update. The main news being the whole Henry situation. Henry is a hen, or at least Henry is a rooster that knows how to lay an egg, or Henry is a hen that knows how to make a rooster call. So that one's it's kind of baffling my mind. If any of you all have any input on that or thoughts on it, maybe it's just when the hen gets really frustrated or anything, they start kind of showing a little bit of that male side, and kind of, I think it is proven out there that some birds can actually switch genders at some point. Maybe that's what's happening here. Maybe Henry, as a rooster, realized that he would not be welcome to the flock, and then switched himself over to a her, and then started laying eggs. More likely it was a hen all along, and just made a rooster sound 1 or 2 times. Who knows? We may never know, but all I do know is that this right here did not come from one of my other hens, unless my other hens decide to lay 2 eggs in a day. So that's the proof I got, and that's what I got to work with. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted on that, on this kind of newly developing information, and we'll see where we can get with it. All right, guys, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do like what I'm doing, please subscribe to the channel or share some of these videos. Sharing is a really easy way to take one of those videos you liked or enjoyed or you found something interesting in and just share that to a community that might find very similar value in it, right? So I'm not saying that all my videos are valuable to everybody, but some of them might be like have that spark or cause you to think about something that you'd never thought about. And those ones, share those ones and get those out to the community members that you really think find value in it. That's the key, right? I don't want you to just to share my videos. I want you to share if it actually will help someone else in their journey. And that's really my goal here, is to help you guys along and to share my journey and what I'm doing. So hopefully you can learn from it and not make the mistakes that I do along the way. All right, guys, that's it for today. And till next time, have a good one.